always people so it's always such thing. And today the first part of the there's a just in the oh la la, there's a just I didn't change on the information. I'm sorry, this was the not Schindler's 2, but the Schindler's list, the part number 1. Just if there is the feasible, I change it on the logo, but it's better to inform people. There's just like a number 1. Maybe is the switch at your information. Just let me just check this just if there's feasible, and that there should be episode 1, just a walk number 1, or just maybe if I check on the schedule, this should be rescheduled at you. That's a just interesting fact. And let's start the tour. Imagine Krakow before war had 240,000 people, and 25% of Krakowians, they were Jewish, and there was just during the war, the ghetto was created later than in other parts of Poland. The territory of Poland was taken by Germany, and they renamed as the German government, the general government, with the capital city in Krakow. But there's always question why Krakow. Krakow was not destroyed in the Second World War, and was just for Germans, was the we say friendly sky to move more and more Germans. A lot of Germans, so-called Germans, they were Austrians. They moved from Austria. Between them was the Oskar Schindler. For instance, in Warsaw, the capital city of Poland, every 20 persons spoke German. In Krakow was just density was higher. And the Schindler's factory, look at this, that is the photo from above from the factory, very untypical. Look at this, that's just, I prepare, okay, that's the main entrance to factory with my group, always depicting memory from this year. Hello Lynn, welcome for joining. And then you see faces of Schindler's children, the Jews that were saved by and there's Oskar Schindler, and they were called him as the father. That's why there's just such photo. That's just the thing. Okay, but the factory from above, just one. Let me just I think. Oh, that's just the photo. Oh. That is the factory. There was at first only 2 floors. And the 3rd floor was built, then the Oskar Schindler, they took the former Jewish factory. Silke, welcome, and look at this. I prepared the tour for you. We are just at the beginning of tour. We are in the photo atelier. They are just looking at us faces of the former Krakowians. Between every 4th Krakowian was the Jewish, but the only 3,000 survived the Holocaust. Such tragic matter of the Shoah, of the Holocaust. Look at this, that is like a traveling in time exhibit in the Schindler's factory. That was the enamelware factory. Oskar Schindler employed, Poles and Jews, but the Jews were cheaper labor workers, and they preferred to employ more and more Jewish workers. That is let me show the famous moment from the. That is like a moment from the film that Oskar Schindler with Itzhak Stern preparing the Schindler's List. I tell you about the true facts around the film because there are some facts in the film, like a preparing list. The Itzhak Stern didn't wrote the names in the list. The first was the Mietek Pemper. But let's go to the topic. At first, we walk through the factory. We are 1 month before the war. The red curtain is the symbol of the outbreak of Blitzkrieg, of the very quick war of Adolf Hitler. And we walking through the corridors. That's like traveling 1,883 days. Look at this, the Wawel. Hello Wendy, big thanks for joining. As you see, there are, in Schindler's factory, there are description in English, the Royal Castle Wawel. The Wawel became the residence of the Nazi governor Dr. Hans Frank with his wife and 5 children stayed there 5 years. And he wasn't responsible for relocating Jews to ghetto, but he made very wrong speeches about the Jews. The whole exhibit is called Krakow under Nazi occupation 1939-1945. The whole exhibit was opened by the Shoah Foundation and Hillary Clinton between them. In one moment, just I show you the famous photo from Schindler's factory, 2010. Hillary Clinton was by the opening June 2010. That is, she's staying in the Schindler's office in the factory. Just let's go a little bit to see the Krakow from above. The photo was made by the excellent photographer in 1930. The plane was flying over Krakow. Oh, again, I forgot the pointer, but with the indicator, I show you this a little bit. Look at this. That is just the St. Mary Basilica in the main market square in 1930. We are just 90 years ago in Krakow. 90 years ago, the Krakow looked very similar like today because Krakow wasn't destroyed in the Second World War. First World War and Second World War, Krakow survived intact. If you got any questions on the way, if somebody's first time, please ask, because then you see the old town. That is the Jewish quarter Kazimierz. And then you see the band or the ribbon, the Vistula River, the main river of Poland. Wisła in Polish. Then in English we say Vistula, in Yiddish or German, die Weichsel. And then after the 2 years, in 1941, that was the decision of relocating 15,000 Jews to ghetto on the other river side. I prepared a photo showing the Krakow ghetto, Krakow Jewish ghetto. They exist 2 years. There was the small area, 2 square meters per person, the one common toilet, bathroom, and of course starvation. There was the new reglementation card for Jews, or just let me point properly the gimbal, because the just pointing gimbal is essential on the tours, as I see, or just the such thing. And I think I would put the brightness a little higher, is better to you. Okay, and then we walking just further. And then you see that there's just a lot of such albums with the photos showing Krakow. There's a factory you could visit for more than 2 hours even, is not enough, or the 2 hours is usually 8 hours even. But there are groups, and that is the little time pressure. Let me put the PowerPoint to the laptop, because I see I was in charge, and it's always such procedure with the PowerPoint. Just let me. And then we are still in the first room with photoplasticon. It's like a cinema. I make the little backwards then you see the people sitting and watching photos. They were made on the glass, and they are binoculars. You could watch the history, what's going on around Krakow. That was Hello Merlin, that was a first cinema. The photoplasticon is since 1925, the oldest just in Poland. And then you see gas masks and the leak for anti-gas and anti-aircraft attack. You look at this, even the ceiling is made with the plan of Krakow. We wanted to give the impression that's you came back to the time of traveled 80 years ago, 90 years ago. And we are 1 month before the war. And on the right, the preparing for the gas war. That was the państwo with the monopoly of spiritus. That was the vodka distillery company in Krakow. They prepared a special amount of spirit, of course, for the army as the disinfection for the medical support. But then you see the atmosphere of the preparing for the war. We are 1 month before Blitzkrieg, August 1939. Orthodox Jews sitting and like considering, but they look at this. They smiling. There was the last summer holidays in Poland, summer 1939. In Poland, you know, vacations are longer. The June, July, the 2 months, and they Orthodox Jews. There were 65,000 in Krakow. They didn't want to emigrate, also they moved the progressive Jews, they were just Zionists, we say assimilated Jews. They got the visa and they tried to emigrate to Palestine, but not the Orthodox. They mainly said, oh, First World War was safe for us, we could stay here in Krakow. There would be like a First World War, Krakow would have been lucky, such hope. Hello Francis, thank you for joining. Look at this, the Krakow swimming pool. There's the world famous football team club, the close Wisła is also, and the Wisła stadium and the just swimming pool. Today that such beautiful swimming pool doesn't exist. That was the swimming pool with panoramic view on Krakow. But you see the last chillaxing moments in the Krakow beach and the Vistula river, and the moment with the gas leak. The special, that's just as always jokes with the commercials. Hello Francis, and we prepare for the the war, but with a special gas leak. Let me check. Oh, there's a look at this. That is just the soldier on the horse with gas mask. Even horses, they got the gas masks. That's just, you could see zooming, that is like a special Polish patent, because they all expected Second World War similar like a First World War, gas war, very quick and just with gas. Yes, let's go following. Then Polish army, we've got over 600,000 soldiers, that's just together with armament and reserve, but with armament there was the 1/5 of the Wehrmacht army. There was of course promise of the Great Britain and France to support Poland immediately, and the Polish sign of the saluting is just the sign of victory, but they made in the such sign. Is just the time before Blitzkrieg. And we say we would fighting to the last blood, so-called, as a just lottery for the Polish army, and we getting to the waiting room and the Krakow railway station. That you see the timetable, and we are just 1 day before Blitzkrieg. Imagine 1 day before Blitzkrieg. It means there's like 1 minute to 1 to 8, and then started the 1st September 1939. Second World War started. This official date, that is the no discussion when started Second World War. 1st September 1939. Hello Australia, this is especially for you. I did such early morning tour. In Krakow is now 8 a.m., very early morning. And it's the Sunday, of course. And for you, that I think is the nice afternoon time, and especially for the time zone, I repeated the tour. And number 1, Schindler's Factory, the Thomas Kennedy, especially for Australians, you know, Thomas Kennedy wrote the book Schindler's Ark, and that book that became inspiration from Steven Spielberg. Without that book, there wouldn't be. There's a Beverly says just there's a just very there's the big thing that just you got the wakey at such. Very early morning, we say the extremely early morning. You know, I work also for a Shell company as the logistics, and I always work the such morning shift at the 3 a.m. till 11 a.m. It's just, I know what is a very painful hour. KJ, hello, just big thanks. Oh, that's excellent. New Zealand, Australia. Say that tour is there, of course, in next week. You see even the Plaszów tour is there, of course, in the evening. and in the morning I could only at the weekend, because I work at the catering as the driver also, and I had to run to work. That's why this is very infeasible to do this so early. But maybe at the 5:30 a.m. Please write from Australia on KJ if you go if there would be point of interest to do the such tour, for instance, Wednesday or Thursday, 5 a.m. This is the earlier than now, even 2 hours or 3 hours earlier. 5, for instance, start 30 is the 25 a.m. I had to do the 5 a.m. is the 3 hours earlier. That is just. Yes, perfect, Natasha, for Vancouver, excellent time. And look at this, it is the war, but it's that exhibit, the show that generated the defending war of Poland and escaping civilians, but in territory of Warsaw, not Krakow. Krakow was just not battles. That just simple Wehrmacht army marched to Krakow, and Krakow became capital city of the general government. There's only here is original flag and the helmets for Wehrmacht. But look at this, they've got the helmets, and what did the Polish army have? The uniform of Polish soldier. Look at this, saber on the horses with rogatywka. That is the such kind of. Annette, big thanks for joining. And now I tell you something interesting new on the tour, because Annette, I think, is that again. Look at this, the buttons. Button is just the famous sentence that we say, we would fight to the last button. Even if they didn't have munition, we use the buttons to defend Poland. And that is just, in the meantime, I show you the postcard showing the Schindler's List and the preparing from the just liquidation of Krakow ghetto. Oh my God, this is, I know this is just early morning, that's a just tour. And have a look. Then we moving a little bit to see the Polish tank. I think is like very transparent. On my YouTube channel, you could find also the full film. Yes, because I tell you that because it's the old, not legend, but real fact. In 18th century, Krakow was attacked by the Russians, and there was the General Panin, the Tsar army. And yes, there was the buttons were made of the tin, or the just simple tin, or we say lead tin. That's just, interesting is the connected with enamelware. The first enamelware factory that Schindler took them, there was the Jewish factory record. And the main headquarters was not in Krakow, but in Olkusz. On my YouTube channel, you could find excellent live stream film from Olkusz. Next time I did with the boss of the Jewish community, we say Arthur Davidson, and his friend that he knew Steven Spielberg. He was in the film Schindler's List scenery. He's disabled, and it's then infeasible, just he didn't like any show on the internet. It was just the chance we organized to him the special journey to the main headquarters of Enamelware Olkusz. Thank you, Wendy. And Olkusz, you could find under the name Olkusz. And K. The famous defending, let's go to the topic. In 18th century, there was the defending of Krakow, and suddenly the defenders didn't have munition. And he took the button of his jacket and killed the main general Panin. And that's the real fact. The Russians, they thought the buttons, the bullets are so big as the such button, and they got back. That was the famous defending. I think I prepared such photos from Marcin Oracewicz, and it's even his monument in Krakow, Celestat. Celestat was the Zielstätte. That was the just Austrian sounded name, but was the Society of Brothers of Defenders of Krakow. And such fact about the button and defending of Krakow is the real fact. It was the 1788 Confederates, the Confederation of Krakow they did the famous defending and Marcin Horacewicz, I called that film Krakow Sniper, Krakow Sniper and defending Krakow. That's just very special thing. That's why we got the hope to defend Poland even with batons, but of course 2 centuries later. You see the tank. Tank was on the license of Fiat. There was the Fiat engine placed for 2 soldiers and was the much more reconnaissance tank. Look at this. There was even place for spade for the digging any ditches. Very clever, but the tank was dangerous for the German Tigers because on the sandy roads and frozen rivers was very light and not heavy, like a Polski Fiat, like a Maluch, little Fiat. And was very clever. We got over 800 items and also Renault. But of course, you look at the background, the destroyed Polish villages, the over 100,000 soldiers and civilians were killed in the beginning of war, much more. Wehrmacht soldiers, they got the prepared candies and chocolates with the poison, and they gave to the children. That's why we have to point to such thing. Plan of the Hitler of the destroying Polish, Jewish and Polish nation was the horrible because in any other country in Europe there was the not planned the killing immediately whole civilians. Hitler wrote in the Mein Kampf, the territory east from Germany is the mixture of the any cultures. That's why we have to point that was the plan of the relocating Poles, of course, on the second place. On the first was just vanishing the Jews from or relocating them to Madagascar or Palestine. But the parallel, that was the such, and that is the opinion of the witnesses, like a Niusia Horowicz-Karakulska, the Schindler Jew. She was saved by Schindler, and at the meeting, she told about the such candies. Parents said, don't take the such candies from the Wehrmacht soldiers. In Krakow, just they marching to Krakow, but they gave the such, we say, gifts. That was just interesting. That was the like a final solution of the all Slavic people as the non-humans, because the Germans, they put the 3 categories. There were Jews, non-Jews as the Poles and Ukrainians, and then the Aryans, of course. That is just the full German blood. That's why there's a such thing that is something new on our tour. And then you see the map of the Second Republic Poland. My friend is talking with the English group that describing what happened with Poland. Oh, that is just excellent to stop. You see invasion of Poland. 1st September on the left side. Look at this. Here's the Warsaw. Here's the Krakow. Auschwitz is very close, Krakow, just exactly here. And our territories were spread to the east. Before Second World War, we got the territory of Lithuania, now today Belarus as the White Russia, and then West Ukraine, Lviv. That was the territories of Poland before war. And invasion of the Hitler, as you see, there was still Bug and San River. Look at this. Here is the Bug, is the Warsaw was taken after 1 month. The Hitler took the Poland. But now I always make the clarify the mistakes of the Schindler's List. Steven Spielberg said in 2 weeks Poland was defended, and he didn't change. There was not change the such fact. It's a little painful for us because defending war they took over 1 month, even till 3rd October. 3rd October was the last battles. That's why the defending was over 1 month. But look at this. After 17 days. The Wehrmacht just took the line of Bug River and San. Hello, Wiki community. Big thanks for joining. And the San. And on the 17 September, Stalin, they sent the Red Army on the territory of Lithuania, Belarus, and West Ukraine. And Stalin explained it as the taking the Russian-speaking territories with Russian minorities. And there was the explanation. Interesting, the Polish government didn't announce war against the Soviet Union. That was the only evacuation of the government from Warsaw to Romania. Look at this here in the south west, that we got the frontier with Romania. Romania was in the pact with Hitler. But the Romania and Hungary, that is interesting, said no to Hitler invading Poland. They had to pay extra contribution. In the history, always Hungarians were our close friends. And interesting, the Hungarians didn't want to fight against Poland. That's why the Hungary and Romania, they organized the exile government for Poland, and then Sikorski government, Prime Minister Sikorski, then traveled over Paris to London. That was the moment with the first month of Blitzkrieg. Then was created on the territory of Poland general government, the Hitler's colony. Then you see the little, slits from the different addresses. I'm sorry they are not sharp. Next time I prepare the extra, I think, postcards showing names, because the Gestapo, they're looking for the Jewish-sounded names in Krakow. There was not ghetto, but the first action was they're looking for the rich Jews staying in Krakow, so-called hide Jews or secret Jews, secret or not assimilated Jews. And how I looking for the proper photography from the, but I showed the one photo from the Krakow ghetto on the way. They looking for the names, and they've got the special postcards with from the Red Cross, from the German Red Cross or Polish even Red Cross, with information that the house is full of insects or any dangerous disease, and they should be cleaned for the half hour. And imagine the family had a half hour to take to their most important belongings, and they moved out of Krakow to the south, direction Zakopane, out of Krakow. Before creating ghetto, over 45,000 Jews they migrated out of Krakow to the south, especially to the mountains. That's why the Schindler's List, they starting with the scene in the railway station in the mountains. They coming the Jews, and they are registered to go to new residential district ghetto. Because the first 2 years they staying in Rabka, Zakopane, in any places south of Krakow before war. And that's why there's such a commemorating action of the relocating Jews out of Krakow. And we are at the beginning of terror in Krakow. That is just autumn 1939. You see here, of course, they're not original. They are the flags as the giving only impression that was everywhere was the propaganda. And on the left and right, you see announcements. The non-humans, that's the Jews, Poles, they weren't permitted to have the radio transistor. But the announcements were on the street. Just the people like me now, energy is out, and I have to go out to get information on the street. And they read the information in the 3 languages, German, Ukrainian, Polish, and they have to read information or everything focusing around the Jews. There was written, for instance, don't drink Jewish milk because it's the Jewish cow, and they don't touch the Jewish cats, dogs. The Jews had to give all bikes, cars in the main market square. The Jewish bankers, they shouldn't have the more deposit than the 200 zlotys a month. And the Jewish shops were marked with David Star. Of course, the following the swastika and having the Adolf Hitler portrait was the duty. And Poles, the little bit they felt better because what was mean? I always said the Poles were tactic of Goebbels propaganda. If everything focusing around the Jews, they said, don't touch Jews, the Jews like rats and insects infecting you. The other nations, Poles, Ukrainians, felt better because I think, there's everything focusing around Jews, not us. The Jews it was duty to build the new air raid ditches or shoveling snow. That is some boss of SS in Krakow said. That is said in the Schindler's List in the film. oh, that is the something magical is the between the Jews and snow. Jews cleaning snow. Jews and snow is the something like a ritual, like a something special. Now, Germans, they're looking for any explaining myths, also creating, their own ideology. They sent even own experts from the Ahnenerbe. There was just the special historical institute by Hitler, sending to Mexico to look from the killing the other civilization by Maya culture or Inca from the Quechua. That is, they looked for the killing the former civilization, where like in the pyramids, in Chichen Itza, they killed 20,000 Indians a day with taking hearts out. And I got a very good Israeli guide in Mexico, interesting, Hershon, and he did made such bridges between the killing the former culture, Inca, also the former Quechua, and they looked for such similar efficient methods, killing a day, for instance, 20,000 Jews a day, even in the factories of death. There was such happened. There was such amount is now a little smaller, but in the biggest transport of Jews, there was even such amount of the killed Jews a day in the death camps. There was just such method. And that is the hoisting flag in the Wawel, residence of the Dr. Hans Frank. The minister without portfolio Hans Frank arrived to Krakow. And then we see the Krakow tram went through the Krakow and ghetto. Interesting, look at the trams. They compare with Warsaw ghetto. In Warsaw ghetto, the tram has got the windows blurred, but painted. But in Krakow, there were no David Star on tram. There was just number 6 and the cynical destination Salvator. Salvator is the salvation, the liberation. That was just the cynical destination through the ghetto. The tram number 6 went through the ghetto without stop because was the epidemic danger. So such we walking later to the inside of the tram, but then on the way we see the Jew that trying to travel by tram. But look at this, that was made by the German journalist. They wanted to show the Jews like a monkeys, the traveling without ticket. The trams were only for Germans. Why the Jew tried to travel by tram? That was, look at this, even you could see indicators, left and right. Here is the indicator, with the marker, he marked the special, shot they're giving for the Nazi propaganda. That fact that the Jews are non-humans. They all around they wanted show for the propaganda for people. There was the classical sentence of the Goebbels: if you repeat in the propaganda lie 100 times, the people believe is the true. And there's again and again, in that time was the developing of radio and television. And the films. The Germans, they put the cinemas around Krakow. They were even in the open air propaganda cinemas, and there was such action from Polish, home army. They put the shit smell into cinema that people they were gassing inside, and there was with the graffiti they written on the cinematic. Tylko świnie siedzą w kinie. That's it's only pigs sitting in the cinema. That was such action. Tylko świnia is the pig. Tylko świnie siedzą w kinie. That was the interesting action all around cinemas, German cinemas. That is just such action. Okay. And any questions if you got any, you want to stop or a question. That is the typical moment that the German moms with babies, even one is the feeding a baby, just in the park. The benches were only for Germans. There was not permitted to sit for non-humans. Poles, Jews weren't permitted to sit on benches. That's why the benches were marked nur für Deutsche, only for Germans. And then is the inscription, Judeneintritt in die Parkanlage verboten. The Jews are not permitted to the parks. The most beautiful park in Krakow, the Planty, there was only for Germans. And before creating ghetto, look at this. The Germans felt like on the holidays, You see the Wawel Castle and they smiling and they got the photos, but what happened with Orthodox Jews? Hitler said the Orthodox Jews didn't have European outlook, and they started to cut their side curls, peyotes. Peyotes were just the side curls were cut because Hitler said the Hasidic Jews they don't look like European. We make them European. They look like Europeans as just the first tactic. And have a look here. There's the cutting the beards of Orthodox Jews, but there were much more drastic scenes. They even tearing the side curls and the bleeding. They made them dancing barefeet on the snow or just on the barrel. They dismantled them, but they felt very numb. That is very painful. That Poles also watched that, but they, according that I said. Poles and Ukrainians were put in the torture shoes. At first, that is method of the prison also. There's the higher rank prisoners. They were bastards to the fresh, the lowest rank prisoners. Don't forget, to the SS there came a lot of criminals. The people, they got the boys, they got any criminal matters on his account. And in the special group of the unit of SS, there were Einsatzgruppen. Einsatzgruppe, it means the group from the special tasks, for the task of the final solution. Look at this, that I'm sitting, that is I want to make like a special, we change, my wife is, is involving converting Jewish even. We want to change that place, and Zuzanna did interesting also project. That house that I'm sitting on the right, there was everything. There were stayed here German clerks. On the left was the Gestapo headquarters, Pomorska Street. Horrible place that Poles and Jews were tortured to death. There was even Oskar Schindler, 3 times arrested by Gestapo. And that place at first was, for me with the full pain. We were even crying. Also, always if I describe the guided tours in that place is very hard. There's the original cells with 600 inscriptions scratched on the walls, and but that is the matter that the first persecution focusing around the Jews and slowly turned into Poles, of course, and that's the moment. And interesting propaganda corner. The private photographer of Adolf Hitler was Heinrich Hoffmann. He organized. He was just by the Eva Braun. They was the relative of Eva Braun, and the all bookshops were full of course, propaganda portraits. Each institution they should have such portrait of Adolf Hitler. Of course, I've got the maximal close. Look at this. I've got on the part. Okay. But maybe that's just is mirroring. 1 moment. Just okay. I try to keep the microphone because so you see I've got such special wireless microphone, and now it's better. Oh yes, just okay. But I'm describing if I putting the film, this is just hard to change but just 1 moment. It's just okay. I try to. Because I have to pin the microphone to change the photos. Okay, that's it. Now I think, that's okay. We've got the new technology. Now I think it's better. Just okay. That's just thank you. That's just because I thought also that the microphone is small, but very clever. That's I think it's my third microphone in the career of Hegel. 3 times changed microphones, and at last we got and look at this. That is the sign on the tram. Using by Jews strong forbidden. The Benutzung durch Juden verboten. Używanie tego wozu Żydom wzbronione. Polish word for Jew is the Żyd, is just from the French Židó, Židó and the Juif, Juif, and then that is just Polish is the mixture of some Slavic and also Latin languages, but from Roman is the Żydó, and używanie tego wozu Żydom wzbronione. That's just a strong forbidden. I think the guide from Warsaw, Ela, they got the lessons Polish lessons. You could learn Polish, and that just over click. That is the tram, and then we see the monument of the biggest victory over Germany. That was the Grunwald. That you see the Polish composer Paderewski. He made the speech. The photo was made in 1910. There was the 500 years after big battle, big victory over Germany. Of course, that monument that shouldn't exist. That was demolished by the order of Hans Frank. All monuments in Krakow was demolished. But they compare with Warsaw. Warsaw almost 100% destroyed. Krakow almost nothing. Only monuments and bridges blown up. The Krakow was the very lucky liberation. Always I repeat that fact that Krakow became the capital, but Krakow got a much more neutral position, and there were too many Germans. Every fifth person spoke German. In Warsaw, every 20 persons spoke German, and that's why the Krakow just was considered as the capital city of the Hitler's colony general government. Look at this. There's some pieces of monument were hid by the Krakowians. They hide at home, for instance, head of the king and scepter. And there's such pieces of monument waiting 70 years to be in that museum. That's just the phenomenal matter. That's just such miracle. And then we entering the Pigeon Street. Pigeon is the called Polish gołąb. Pigeon Street. And now you've got the original sounds of the Dr. Bruno Müller, SS Untersturmbannführer. They informed the professors about the collaboration or concentration camp. The 200 professors were invited by the SS man, and they got them choice. Look at this. There's, on the left is the oldest building of Poland, the Polish Oxford, the Jagiellonian University. And the leader of the SS, Dr. Bruno Müller, they got the just announcement. You got the in original in German. Hello, Memphis.
Die Herren haben sofort den Saal zu verlassen. Ich nehme an, dass der Herr Rektor den Zug ankündigt.
Oh, they finish with Aber raus. And that was the famous Sonderaktion Krakow. In that second action, there was my brother or grandfather. You know, yesterday I shared my very painful discussion with my family. That was in the second action was my uncle Brand, but it's the honor to him to always pointing him. My mother said, "Oh, stop the showing. He's still showing on the Hago tours also especially. I show in the Auschwitz for my groups. There was the not agreement of the some guides or we say management of Auschwitz Museum. They said it's no time to share your private stories. That is for me is very shame and painful that for the groups I prepared the photo. I wanted to share that information, and there's the time limit. In Auschwitz you visit 1.5 hour Auschwitz 1, short break, there's a just toilet, and then quick to Auschwitz to Birkenau, chop, 3.5 hour maximal limit and filling. Thank you, Tess, for joining. And look at this. You could read in Polish, but I prepared next time in English. There's just is official Auschwitz register. But Aleksander Witowiecki. He was the 31 years old as in the second Sonderaktion Kraków. That was the action organized by the SS against the educated people in Poland. Why? There was the collaboration between KGB and German MI6, we say Abwehra, and the NSDAP party secret service. They saw if the Poland there are no educated people, if we killed the intelligentsia, DTR, big thanks for joining for the living, but just if we taking the intelligentsia, and now I tell you about the two actions together of Stalin and Hitler, because it's the second of Stalin's side is the non-famous. That action was the taking by the Hitler and the detention action. The professors, they got the choice, collaboration or camp. And they all said no for collaboration. They were sent to Sachsenhausen, and look at this. That is the photo showing the rector of university before war, rector of the Polish Oxford, the Jagiellonian University. He was the professor of literature. And after 5 months in Sachsenhausen, Mr. Hitler considering, that is the Nicolaus Copernicus, the famous student of the Jagiellonian University. And after 5 months, look at this, that was the same professor, mental diseased, just unable to work. But Hitler said, okay, with the freedom for the professors 40 plus, and seniors could go home, but the 15% of Jewish professors were killed in Sachsenhausen. The professor Estreicher, with Jewish roots, Estreicher, they were sent only ashes to the family. That is the family, you know, believed that is the just, oh, sorry, that's not sharp, but they were the belief that is just the normal cleaning action, and the camp was the labor camp. They thought there was just any medical reason. The same my family. If there was there was information he was shot in Auschwitz, they thought there was just any pneumonia, the problem with the medical reason they came home. That was the Sonderaktion Krakow, very painful action against the Polish, but also Jewish professors, because 15% were Jewish, but all Jewish professors were killed in Sachsenhausen. That is the propaganda newsletter in Krakow, Goniec Krakowski, as the Krakow runner, we could translate. General governor in Krakow. There was like a king. Hans Frank arrived to Krakow with his wife Brigitte. In one moment we see closer the photos. And look at this, that is the project, museum project. It's not any decoration. The floor was made with swastika, but only for museum. Museum was created 2010, 12 years ago. And Hillary Clinton was by opening the Shoah Foundation people, and that is the project that we have to step over such symbol, not glorify. Music is such original from Wagner also that every month was the big parades in the main market square. They wanted to show that Krakow is full of propaganda. And here is the very someone is here talking with Brigitte Frank. On the right is the Dr. Hans Frank, minister without portfolio of Adolf Hitler. On his right is the Brigitte, his wife. She was smoking every day, and the 5 children. And who is as the guest of him? Heinrich Himmler, the most cruel, the Reichsführer, responsible for the concentration camp of the final solution. He was the plan of the vanishing 11 million European Jews in the whole Europe. And he was fresh after visiting, Majdanek or just the execution sites in the Ukraine. And there was the most horrible thing, because he saw the death, the firing squad, and he was splashed with any blood or piece of the brain. And he couldn't saw it. He started vomiting. That is the most cynical matter, that decisive person, that's just at the top, they on the paper, like Dr. Adolf Eichmann, architect of Holocaust, architects of Holocaust, they make on the paper. But if they saw the such execution sites, they couldn't stand watch that. And that's why Himmler started to look from the painless method from the SS men, organizing gas chambers and Cyclone B. That was such after fresh visiting concentration camps, and he was on the way to visit Auschwitz. Also, there's just the Auschwitz-Birkenau. And he was, of course, gala, we say, the opera show, and in the Wawel Castle, in the opera, they're watching any big show. Himmler, again, Dr. Hans Frank, and on the right, the visiting by Goebbels, and Brigitte Frank like a queen, you see, with the Jewers. She's got the swollen fingers of Jewers, because the Jews, they've got the reglementation cards. There were 3,000 calories a day per German, 800 calories per Pole, and only 300 calories per Jew. That's why they had to sell everything. And in one moment, the Krakow airport. Alison, big thanks for joining. Thank you for following. Any questions? If somebody's first time, please just share information and you could follow. But look at this. You could see the Japan consul Hawaii Japan delegation in the Wawel. That is of course, the very, very hard topic. I got the Japan group in the Schindler's factory, and I know that it's not the political correctness in that time was to talk with them. I don't know why, but always we had to run very quickly, not show the Kauai consul. But the consul Kauai was the guest. There was the plan of making the general government of Poland as the common frontier in the Ural Mountains. After annexion of the Soviet Union, the Hans Frank planned the common frontier with Japan. Big thanks, Colin. And look at this, there was also Polish Gorals, mountaineers, Highlander. They visited Hans Frank and they gave him bread and salt as for Hans Frank. That's just a moment of the glorification. But everything, of course, matters of propaganda. There was NSDAP Day as the German party. That's why the name Nazi. You see the abbreviation NSDAP, Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeitspartei. That members of the party, they were just the so-called Nazi. That's why the name Oskar Schindler became the Nazi party member. Benches only for Germans. You see the marking Nur für Deutsche, only for Germans. And the Krakow is the capital of general government. And the parades in the main market square in Krakow renamed to Adolf Hitler Platz as a just. That is the surprise always from the part. A big thanks, Natasha, for the. If you got any questions connected with this, of course I prepared also some photos as with making clarify the figure of who created Schindler's List. I think is the important. On the Schindler's List, the Mietek, big thanks, there's the tour 1 hour, but we taking the first part, not of course, a lot of such matters. In one moment, I show the following few parts too. But you see Mietek Pemper, that is also his photography on the Wikipedia. You could find his book, The Road to Rescue. There is the little mistake on the Schindler's List that Steven Spielberg appointed Itzhak Stern, of course, Sir Ben Kingsley's excellent role and the good feature on the film, but the real person that very supported Jews and they gave also the list, there was the Mietek Pemper, but there's the little trouble. After war, he stayed in Bavaria. He got a lot of German friends, and he was recognized as the German Jew. And you know, there was not the similar like Oskar Schindler. Only the Jews, the saved by Schindler, just only Jews from Schindler's List recognize him as the good person, and that's why Mietek Pemper, you see his name, you could find his book, The Road to Rescue. In the film is very short scene with him. Look at this. That is just Itzhak Stern, giving him the new document with Blauschein, the work permission. Blauschein, the blue permission, that was the special permission for the work, and the professor of history didn't have the proper permission, and Itzhak Stern came to Mietek Pemper and he prepared as such proper. His face is very similar to Poldek Page, the Jew. Also that's why there's a lot of people in the film, and that is always hard to recognize. But of course, that is the photo with Itzhak Stern with Oskar Schindler in the Yad Vashem Institute. If the Oskar Schindler was nominated to the title Righteous Among Nations, and that prize, of course, French, of course, nomination, and in the French is just describing the medal. And they came in head much more Itzhak Stern as just the main feature. Yes, big thanks, Tess. Thank you for any supporting questions. Tomorrow at the 6 p.m. KL Plaszów concentration camp. That's why tomorrow I do the just there's a such tour. Now, if somebody got the power a little bit, we've got the last piece of the tour. There are pieces of monument destroyed by Nazi Germany in the main market square in Krakow. The Wehrmacht soldiers in opera, of course, there's a presidential loggia for Hans Frank. And in one moment, you see the Polish Shakespeare, Adam Mickiewicz. That monument was demolished. And the new infrastructure for Krakowians, the new coat of arms, but they're not destroying Krakow, but the plan of making Krakow as the new residential district for German government, even new residential district by the Wawel. And even the new villa for the wife of Hans Frank, Brigitte Frank. You know, she was called the Queen of Poland, and west of Krakow was built the most beautiful castle east of Germany, the Przegorzały Villa, House Wartenberg. But there was too much. The Hans Frank had to give it as the present to. Hello, Vlasta, big thanks for joining. Any questions? You know, the most magical, the most important Schindler's factory. Thank you for any questions following. The factory, the tour would be repeated again and again. Behind you see the famous Spielberg yard. I got my little film studio in my apartment, and always I do such new tours as the live streaming, but from the film that I did in factory. In factory is almost invisible to the live streaming tour. There's too many groups, sound, and very bad connection. That's why I think is the good option with the such traveling with the in time from the laptop and look at this. But you could find on my YouTube channel the full film I did on the YouTube channel. That is just a funeral of the first German soldiers. Because now we are slowly in the time that was the East Front started. The Germans started the just aggression of the Soviet Union. And here the wedding, but the very untypical. German wife is sitting alone, and only the helmet that is on the right is the symbol of the man. The bridegroom was the fighting in the East, and was such marriage of a distance. They wanted accelerate procedure of the weddings, and they was the marriage of a distance. There was no Facebook. And there was the life fountain program, Lebensborn. They looking for the boys with the fair hair, blue eyes, and protruding ears, the Aryan characteristic. And they wanted, they get even 10 years old boys. But between Polish children, even Jewish, anywhere that they're looking for the Russians, Ukrainians, they looked for the army. Hitlerjugend in Krakow, 10 years old boy in the army. Then we get entering the prison, main prison of Gestapo, Montelupich, Gestapo prison, and the Gestapo needed the Volksdeutsche, the half Germans. If the mother was Polish, father German, or mother French, father German, they spoke usually 2 or 3 languages. The Gestapo needed them for the special action of the city theater Kraków Słowacki, and the action was with we called the proscription letters, proscription post. Look at this. Here in one moment we see on the wall, but I did the special postcard. The Germans, they looked for the collaborators, because the Polish people, they have to look for the names of their relative captured in the prison, and if they discussing, they were eavesdrops information, and they gave information to to Gestapo. There were just collaborators, the denouncing system very high. Yes, I think. Some of you that were later, please follow my profile. I very appreciate if you like following the profile. You could find me also on my YouTube channel, Tom Guide Kraków. That is just the famous film that I did that got the biggest viewership about the Red House Amon-Get Villa in Plaszow. And exactly in Plaszow, we're meeting, big thanks Wendy, we're meeting, you are an exceptional, just, help, big thanks. We're meeting tomorrow at the 6 p.m. 7 p.m. Polish time. That's why I compare with this is almost 11 hours plus later. That's why it's the time zone, again, European American zone. Today was the Australian Japan, we say Australian Japan zone, Asian zone. That's just interesting. Please, if there's somebody is from the Australia or there, share between your friends Japan or Australia or the Asia. That is just if this makes sense, do the tour such early morning. I could do even earlier if that's better, but only at the weekend I could do the such early morning tour. Usually it's always late afternoon after work, of course. That's why that is the just new film studio as you see, but it's the very special shining effect. I think even I could do even as the promotion. There's such one photo for the Heygo Voyagers. Because that's just a good thing to make the promotion of the film for my studio. That's why just let me check. That's just let me make the such. Thanks again, Wendy. Just you are amazing with the support of the part, and just I try to take the selfie photo with the just apartment. That's just such little photography on the part, and if we're changing that photo is just also this interesting overview over laptop, and there's just the part, and that's just I think that's just making the full view. What is just interesting. Just the part. Yes, that's why again big thanks. The morning is just outside is just the sorry sunshine. Big thanks, Susan, for the joining on the Heygo Voyagers. I inform you about the tour tomorrow with the such